Hi everyone, it's me, Sakura, and welcome back to another reaction video. Today we're going to be reacting to why restaurant lasagna tastes so much better. It's by Fellow. If you like my content, hit the like button and subscribe because every little bit helps me make more of these videos. That said, let's jump into it.
Lasagna. There are endless
I love lasagna. It's one of my favorite dishes.
ways to make it. Every region builds it differently. Every family swears by their recipe. This isn't the classic way, this is the chef way. A technique-driven approach to deeper flavor, lighter layers, and a clean slate.
Is there a difference between the chef way and the classic way? I mean, I'm sure there is. Chefs are crazy, so obviously. I don't mean crazy in like a bad way, but crazy as in they're very artistic maybe. But yeah, they always put their own spin on things. So I'm curious how Fallow puts their spin on a lasagna.
Slice every time. Today, I'm going to be making one of my favorite and one of the most popular pasta dishes in the world. We're going to be taking inspiration from a legendary 3 Michelin star chef to create the chef version of the ultimate lasagna. So the first thing we're going to be doing is starting with the sofrito. So
one thing about Fallow is they always take inspiration from other Michelin-starred chefs. But have they ever come up with inspiration from within, like their own version of things, instead of borrowing all the time? I don't know. Tell me in the comments.
we made a sofrito a couple of times on this channel. Effectively, it's a mirepoix, but an Italian version. So we're going to be using onion, we're going to be using some carrot, and we're going to be using...
Also, Hispanic people use sofrito too. It's not only a Italian thing.
some celery. We are going to be cooking our sofrito in a very special ingredient, which is a little bit unconventional, but it's going to add bags of flavor. Probably the most modern versions of lasagna are coming from Bologna in northern Italy. So we're going to take our carrot, just going to cut a little slice off the bottom just to make so it stands flat. And then we're going to cut into nice thin strips, sort of famed as being the sort of wealthier north rather than the sort of the south, which is they might use slightly more cheaper ingredients in the south, whereas in the north it's a little bit more plentiful.
I think southern, and please don't hate me for this, but I like southern Italian food better than northern Italian food. It's just it's what I grew up with, so I might be a little bit biased. I can't speak English today, but yeah, I feel like southern Italian food has more flavor, more love than the north. And maybe I watch too many Sopranos too. Too much Sopranos. But I did live in the Northeast, and a lot of people from New York and New Jersey come from, Naples and Sicily, Napolitan, that kind of thing. So, and that's the food I've always eaten. So
It's where Parmesan comes from. You've got fashion capitals like Milan and all sorts going on in the north. So just into like a fine julienne and then back across into a brunoise. So the whole point of cutting the vegetables like this is so that all the vegetables...
Yeah, if I carrots, that's how I like my carrots. That way it disintegrates easier and I don't have to taste a huge chunk of carrot.
Are the same size, so they cook evenly. They're not so fine that you're still going to have a slight bite in the vegetables when you have the finished ragu. There's no worse a job than brunoising celery in a professional kitchen. So celery again into sort of small strips, and then again just into a nice fine brunoise. If you want your vegetables to have a slight bit more of a bite or a substance in the finished product, you can go slightly chunkier, that's fine. Then the last thing is to dice up our onion. So just going to go across the onion, leaving the root attached. Then just going to make one slice across the middle before then just, again, cutting that into a nice fine dice. Our secret ingredient is going to be bone marrow. Again, this is an optional addition, but it's...
Yeah, asabuco, I think, would add a richness.
It's going to give our ragu buckets of flavour. But we're going to render that down with a tiny little bit of neutral oil. And then once the bone marrow started to melt and the fat is rendered out, we're then going to go in with our sofrito in there, and then we're going to lightly sweat it down in the bone marrow fat. Once our bone marrow is slightly rendered out, we can then start to go in with our vegetables. And I really do think that the bone marrow adds that little meaty difference, because lasagna is quite simple in its entirety. So adding little extras that are going to elevate it can really set this apart, and the reason why I think it's the ultimate. But if you can't get bone marrow, you could easily go in with a bit of rendered beef fat if you've got that knocking around, even goose fat, duck fat, whatever. If you've got you might have something left in your fridge from doing roast potatoes or something like that.
Yeah, I'd probably use maybe pork belly or something like that, pork lard or something flavorful,
Like that. Any sort of fat is fine. And equally, if you only have olive oil, it's still going to be delicious. Going to go in with a little pinch of salt as well. It's just always good to be seasoning throughout the cooking process whenever you're making any sort of braise. It really helps to bring out the flavors throughout the whole cooking process, rather than just seasoning at the end where you just get a salty finish. We're just looking for our veg to go translucent. If you get too much color on this and start actually browning it, you'll end up getting a slight bitter note from the vegetables, where we're looking to just bring out the sweetness and the aromats and the aromas from all these vegetables. We're going to get on to the next stage of our ragu, which is the tomato element. So we found some incredible techniques from a famous Italian chef, Massimo Bottura, 3 Michelin star chef. And what he uses in his ragu, his ultimate ragu, is he confits the tomatoes. We found that by roasting the tomatoes instead, you get, obviously it's much quicker and simpler than confiting tomatoes in oil, and also you get a much more rounded flavor, and it's a little bit more achievable to do at home. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut the tomatoes in half.
At home, I either use canned whole San Marzano tomatoes, or I'll use like ragu or rouse or something like that. If I'm really, really lazy, because making a good sauce takes time, and just having to do everything by yourself, it can get tiring.
Good generous salt and pepper with a good glug of olive oil over the top. This is going to be the only tomato element. The northern style is to keep it quite meat focused, and the ragu should be all about the meat. And in some instances, the tomato's barely even there. We're just going to roast these for about 15 to 20 minutes, about 180 degrees. So we're going to be using 4 different types of meat.
Yeah, personally, I think Sunday gravy is a lot better.
And this is really, I think, some of the key reasons why this ragu is so good. We're going to be using ox cheek, short rib, pancetta, and then sausage meat or pork mince. We've taken a lot of the inspiration for this part of the ragu from Massimo Bottura. He did a version of this in his...
I have no idea who that is, so...
3 Michelin star...
I have no idea who all these chefs who he talks about are. I don't eat Michelin-starred food, so I don't know who these chefs are. The only Michelin star chef I really know is Iron Chef Morimoto and Gordon Ramsay. And there was also Bobby Flay, but I think he lost his star. But yeah, I don't know too many.
Our restaurant in Modena. Cool.
These days, they give out Michelin stars like candy to anybody and everybody. It's, so I don't eat hype food or trend food or anything like that.
Called Osteria Francescana, where he basically recreated a dish from his childhood and called it the crispy part of the lasagna, where he basically deconstructed a lasagna and he did the ultimate pasta, the perfect ragu, and then finished it with sauces and foams and in very much in his style. So what we've done is taken inspiration from that ragu and applied some of it here. So in his version, he uses ox cheek, ox tail, and then he uses ox tongue as well. So we've subbed this out for short rib, cheek, and then we've gone in with the sausage meat and the bacon. The reason we've done this is because we think the fat content in the short rib really helps to break down and give a beautiful mouthfeel and collagen effect in the finished ragu. And also, these are all ingredients that you should easily be able to get your hands on at home. Now, he calls it the crispy part of the lasagna because he feels that that is the ultimate part of what lasagna is. He's deconstructed it, we've reconstructed it purely for your enjoyment. That veg is looking and smelling incredible. There's no way that's not gonna be absolutely delicious. We're gonna go into the pan with some more oil, a generous amount of oil here because we wanna get a really good color on our meat. And then I'm gonna lightly season our ox cheek and our short rib. And that's what we're gonna brown off first. We want a medium-high heat on this. So start it off nice and high, and then you can lower the heat as it starts to color more. But as I said, you wanna be turning this regularly, really developing a beautiful crust. And then while that's coloring up, we can just slice up our pancetta. Yeah, so right now we're running on a fairly low heat. So whenever you're browning meat, you want to start your pan nice and high, and then as soon as you put the meat in, you can then lower it down slightly. The reason you want to do that is because obviously your meat has a lot of water content in it. So as soon as you hit the pan, the first thing that you're going to get is you're going to get a loss of water.
I mean, all that meat looks really, really good.
So if you have your pan on too low, what your meat will end up doing is it'll end up boiling rather than frying. So you want to evaporate that water as quickly as possible and then continue the caramelizing process. So now we've got all our meat browned, just going to remove the last little bit. A nice golden color on there. You can set that meat aside. Then we're going to go in with our sausage meat and then our smoked pancetta. So again, nice low.
Personally, I like Italian sausage. It gives it a lot more flavor than just sausage meat.
Heat to start with, and then we're just going to keep it moving. We really want to break down that sausage meat so we don't get any large lumps of mince. When you're browning off this mince and the pancetta, you want to be lifting off all that caramelization off the bottom of the pan as much as you can at every stage. If you leave it too much without lifting off that caramelization, what it will continue to do is it will just keep caramelizing and then you'll get a bitter note on the bottom of the pan. Look at that. How much nicer does that look than a tin of tomatoes, eh? Which I think is actually one of the key reasons why this sauce is so bloody delicious. So we're gonna go in with the roasted tomatoes into our trusty blender. We want all that nice oil.
So in the tomato sauce, don't you want to take off the skin?
Oil as well. So what's happened here effectively is we've basically just confied these tomatoes in olive oil, but just at a high heat. So we've let some of that water content from the tomatoes escape. And obviously the salt and the pepper is there seasoning the tomatoes as well. And then we're just gonna blend this very, very quickly. We don't want to blend it smooth, we're just gonna effectively pulse it more than blend. We're gonna pulse our tomatoes. Just a quick, probably about 5 to 10 seconds, I would say. Sorry, 3 seconds. So as you can see, as it's cooking here, the meat starts to clump together again, and I'm just taking our spatula and I'm just breaking up those clumps of meat. We don't want meatballs here. Again, I'm just gonna season this a tiny bit. Mince is browned. Give it the most important taste test. Flavor. Again, slightly more unconventional. We're gonna add white wine instead of red. Now, the reason I'm adding white wine is because it's lighter, it's a little bit sweeter, and what it's gonna do...
I I've never seen people put wine in for like a tomato sauce, but I know that some people do it.
It's going to let the meat, again, kind of...
I've never cooked meat in wine either. So I've never had beef, however you pronounce it, beef bourguignon or anything like that.
Shine through a little bit more clearer. It's going to give us a bit of a lighter sauce, and the acidity is going to really help to balance the ragu. Scraping the bottom of the pan nice and hard to release all of that flavour from the bottom of the pan. And then we're going to keep that on a medium-high heat and just reduce that down by half. Wine's almost reduced. And then we're going to add back in our lovely sofrito with the bone marrow fat in there. Turn the heat down slightly. Browned off ox cheek and short rib goes in as well. The tomato pulp is going to go in. And it might look very orange at the moment, but that's just because you've blended it well, it's hot. It's just because of the air in there. But obviously as that cooks out over time, it's going to go beautiful and dark. So don't be worried. A sprig of rosemary, sprig of bay leaf, some Parmesan rind. Now this Parmesan rind is going to do wonders for this ragu, but it's effectively, you're not really going to taste Parmesan, but what it's going to do is it's going to add roundness, it's going to add fullness to the sauce, and it's going to add that like umami, that natural umami hit that everyone knows and loves. Another little sprinkling of salt, very much in a similar fashion to the reason why we're using the white wine. We want this ragu to be a little bit lighter and not overpowering, so we're just going to go with a light chicken stock, which once it's reduced and simmered with all this beef, it's still going to be lovely and meaty, but it's going to give us a much cleaner, lighter sort of ragu rather than a rich, heavy one that you get when you use red wine and beef stock. So we just want to cover the meat, and then we're going to bring this to a simmer. Once it comes up to the boil, we're then going to transfer it to an oven. We're going to cover it with our trusty cartouche. Perfect for something like this. You want some of the steam to evaporate, but you want to keep it nice and sort of moist without getting a skin on it. This is perfect for this sort of thing. You can do this lower. If you want to put it in overnight, or while you're going out for a long walk or something, you could easily put it on 100 or 120 degrees centigrade and then leave it in there for 6 to 8 hours. Or equally, you could whack it up to probably 160 and it might get done a little bit quicker. I wouldn't go much higher than sort of 160. But we're going to meet in the middle and go around 140, and I think it should take us around about 2 hours. So lid on and then into the oven. Okay, ragu's in the oven. Now we're moving on to the pasta. So we're going to be making spinach pasta.
I've seen people use spinach pasta. Personally, I don't do any of that incorporating vegetables into the pasta myself because I'm not too big on vegetables.
Green pasta. So we're going to start off with spinach, and we're going to blanch this in boiling water for about a minute. And then once it's boiled, we're going to take it out of the boiling water and place it into some ice water to chill down. It's going to add a really nice irony flavour to the pasta dough, which is going to complement the meatiness of the dish. Obviously, it goes without saying, fully aware that a lot of people making this lasagna are going to buy in pasta, and that's absolutely fine. I think you can actually even buy green lasagna sheets.
Yeah, they do sell, different kinds of lasagna, and personally, that's what I do. I buy either oven-ready lasagna, which means I don't have to boil it, because sometimes boiling lasagna is a nightmare compared to other pastas. Or sometimes I do buy the boil version and just boil it.
Now, this recipe will work perfectly fine with dried pasta sheets, fresh pasta sheets, green, pink, fucking purple, whatever you want. Remove it from the water, squeeze it.
I mean, purple, that would be like taro pasta sheets, which I don't think I've seen before, but
out all the water. The next step I'm going to do is I'm just going to very roughly chop the spinach. This is just going to help to blend it smoother, and then we're going to blend that with some egg yolk. So this is 00 flour. as always when you're making pasta. Then we're gonna make a small well in the center, and we're gonna go in with 2 whole eggs, a generous glug of olive oil, a little pinch of salt, our spinach mixture. So we're then just gonna take, using our hand, we're just gonna very quickly bring this together into a dough and then knead it for a couple of minutes before wrapping it in cling film, placing it in the fridge for about half an hour to set. It wouldn't be lasagna without white sauce. So just gonna fly through this. We've all seen us make white sauce a million times. Taken some milk and we've infused this with some bay leaf, some peppercorn and some thyme.
I don't think I've had a lasagna with any kind of white sauce. I've always had it with ricotta. You know, you have a lasagna, a layer of ricotta. No. A layer of sauce, and then a layer of ricotta, and then another layer of lasagna noodle on top, and then repeat and rinse. Rinse and repeat. I really can't speak English today. I'm sorry.
Placed it into the milk, brought it up to 80 degrees, and just infused that for an hour. Passed it off, and then that's our milk ready to go. You can also just use.
But yeah, I don't think I've ever had a bechamel before.
Just completely plain milk, it's absolutely fine. Okay, so our butter's melted, then just going with our flour. Then on a low heat, we're just gonna cook out the flour. Once this almost has like a wet sand consistency, almost like biscuity appeal, then that'll be ready to then add our milk. Bit by bit to try and achieve nice smooth consistency, almost creating like a smooth paste each time, and then that paste over time will get more and more diluted into a nice smooth sauce. So you're gonna we've added all our milk to our bechamel, cook that out for about 5 minutes. Our bechamel is nice and thick now. Now we're just gonna add our parmesan and then just let that melt into the sauce. Just give it a little mix to combine. Final bit of seasoning is just a touch of nutmeg. It's not gonna overpower anything too much, but it's just gonna give a little background, not heat, but just a little bit of attitude. You know something's going on in there. And that is ready to roll. The reverse cartouche, made famous by my compadre, Will Murray. Place it on top of your cooling down product to avoid the skin. Look at that. Reverse cartouche. Have you ever seen anything so sexy? World exclusive. Now we're gonna start to roll out our pasta dough. Gonna just pat it down nicely so it's a bit thinner. Gonna put it through the widest setting first. So we're just gonna keep rolling it through. We've taken this to setting number 6 of 8, which I think will be about right. Okay, so that's about the right thickness. So we're gonna hold it up. I put that through probably about 15 times. As you can see, you can sort of see the light coming through. I don't want it like crazy thin, because we still want the pasta to have a nice structure to it. So we're just gonna set these aside and then we're gonna blanch them. So we're gonna keep dropping it in for a minute each. Refresh it in ice water. It's firmed up a little bit now, and then we're just gonna gently lay it out onto some cloth just to dry. So our ragu has been in the oven now, best part of 2.5 hours. I've stirred it sort of every half an hour as it's been cooking. And now we can pick out
that looks really good so far.
Parmesan rind. It's sort of like shriveled up. And you want to let it cool slightly, but you can see the sort of fat has risen to the top, the residual fat. And what we're looking to do now is just break up those chunks of meat. So we diced it quite small already, but as you can see, you've got little chunks of meat here. We're just almost gonna like push them against the side of the pan, just to break up the chunks of meat. Now, if you leave your meat too big, you'll end up with like really stringy sort of like pulled pork consistency. Because we've diced it up already, the meat's already quite a good size. So we're just looking now to break those chunks up, but we don't want it to be like mush because we still want to have those like a nice bite in the lasagna. But as you it'll naturally happen as you mix it anyway. So as you can see, you find a chunk of meat, just press it against the side there. And you can see all that cartilage inside the cheek there. All that's going to add a really beautiful mouthfeel to our finished lasagna. We've made a gastrique, which you would have seen us make before, which is basically sugar and vinegar, which you just boil together.
I've never seen anybody put gastrique inside a lasagna.
And it adds a beautiful sweet acidity, which you can use to add balance to your finished ragu. Pretty much ready to go now. And obviously, as I'm seasoning and mixing it, it's cooling down slightly just so it's a bit more manageable to plate up. So now it's time to build our lasagna. So we've got the ragu, we've got the blanched pasta, and then we've got our white sauce from earlier, which I've just given a little bit of heat. We're gonna start with a little bit touch of the white sauce. So we're going sort of in the Northern Italy style of lots of lots of thin layers of everything. So add a really nice structure to the finished lasagna. Layer of the...
I've never seen anyone put bechamel on the bottom, but I do not eat lasagna like this. I'll put sauce on the bottom, but I won't put like ricotta on the bottom or anything like that.
Ragu. Now if it's not 100% even, that's okay. I'm gonna go in with the pasta. And then you can sort of cut bits off and change it as you're going through it. That's the beauty of using this fresh pasta.
But honestly, I just do my own thing. I cook how I like it, not how, other people how other people like it. I cook food how, I like it, and,
That you can sort of...
But I think I cook some pretty good food, and I'm pretty picky, so I don't add any weird things to any of my food.
Trim it and manipulate it in any way you need to fit the perfect sizes that you want. That's our first layer done. And basically we're just going to keep repeating that. The thinner layers are going to give us more structural integrity on the finished lasagna, so we can really cut it out and serve it as almost like a lovely slice. But it's a real nice point of difference here that it's not just like one texture of just the sort of minced beef, traditional minced pork. We've got a little bit of cartilage from the ox cheek. You've got that beautiful fatty flavour from the short rib, and then you've still got the bacon and the pork in there as well. So it's a real beautiful mix of different meats. I'll be hoping trying to get anywhere between 8 to 10 layers on here, I reckon. So past the last layer of pasta.
I've never had a 8 to 10 layer lasagna. I usually make like 3 to 5 layer lasagna. That's it.
Next, we're going to top it with the last bit of cheese. You could usually do this the night before. You could do this the day before. You could do this 2 days before. You can pop it in your fridge like this, and it's just ready to bake whenever you want. Or you can pretty much just cheese it straight away and bake it. Last step now, we're going to set an oven to 140. Now we're just going to grate some Parmesan all over the top. And this is going to help to achieve that crunchy, crispy layer that Massimo Bottura was so affectionate about. So this is going to take about 20 to 30 minutes in a medium oven at 140. And then we're going to finish it slightly unconventionally, which is going to give us that beautiful crispy top that we're really after. Okay, into the oven she goes. Whoa! Imagine if it went.
Don't drop that and break it now.
Okay.
After all that hard work.
So our lasagna's been in now for about 25 minutes. It's soaked up all the sauce. The pasta's cooked nicely. Starting to get a little bit of a crust on the outside. So what we're going to do now is we're going to remove it from the oven and we're going to place it under a preheated grill. And what we're trying to do here is
under a grill. Interesting.
Caramelize the top, caramelize that cheese, and basically get that top layer of pasta to go slightly crispy. So if you don't have a grill at home, you can do this in a super hot oven. I'd actually take the lasagna out, turn up your oven 220, 230, preheat it, and then pop your lasagna back in.
Or an easier way is you use a broiler. Every oven has a broiler setting. Just turn on the broiler setting and leave it in there for like a couple of minutes. And then you'll have perfect crispy.
And hopefully you'll try and get a similar effect. Oh yeah, now we're talking. Oh. Okay, so we've got our lasagna down from the grill. As you can see, we've really
I mean, that does look yummy. I'm not going to lie.
Pushed the crispy part of that lasagna. We're really trying to replicate that bit that Massimo Bottura loved. This may be one of the greatest feats of human accomplishments. But look at that. the lasagna in all its glory. The chef's lasagna. And I, for one, cannot wait to dig into this. But look at it, I love that, like how you can just cut through it. It's not too saucy. Oh, look at that. I love how like you get the flecks of meat. You got the
I love Italian food. It's probably one of my, well, not Italian food, Italian American food. I like. It's probably one of the most tastiest foods.
cheek in there. You got the and like the top almost you get like almost like a crust from all that layer of cheese on the top. Oh God, I'm so excited. I always think that's one thing I don't like about lasagnas is when they're really tomatoey. This is sort of like a really perfect blend where you just get the sweetness and the acidity from the tomato, but you don't get all that watery mess that you get with like a store bought or a cheap lasagna.
Hey. There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes that's all people can afford, you know? So, don't knock on that.
So much flavour in there. You can still got all these distinctive layers, even after being cut into. This might be the best lasagna on planet Earth. Why the sauce?
Oops. That does look good. Obviously, everyone has different taste buds, so things are going to, taste different to everybody. But I think that's a good lasagna. Would I try it? Maybe, but I'm not going to try. I'm not going to fly all the way to the UK just to try lasagna. We have plenty of really delicious lasagna here, in in North America. So, anyways, if you like their content, hit the like button and subscribe. And if you enjoy my reactions to these videos and my content, hit the like button and subscribe, because every little bit helps me make more of these videos. With that said, until next time, bye.